Happy Camper Radio starts in 3, 2, 1. It's good to be back with you again. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Happy Camper Radio Show. The only place you need to be when you're ready to talk camping. Camping is what we're about. Camping is all we talk about. It's episode 146, and on today's show, we're going to be talking about camping etiquette, specifically quiet hours. Do you know what quiet hours are? Well, if you've been a long-time camper like myself, of course you do. But some new-time campers, first-time campers, should I say, who haven't been out there and go to their very first camping experience at a public or private campground, there are quiet hours, there are written rules, there are unwritten rules, there are things you should do and should not do, and we're going to talk about that on the program today. So stick around. It's going to be a great show like always. You can get in touch with us here at the Happy Camper Radio Show anytime by calling 404-537-2267. That's 404-537-CAMP. You can like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter at Camp Talker, add us to Circles on Google+, and of course, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We've made it so convenient for you to connect up with us. Go to our homepage, www.happycamperradio.com. You'll find all of our social media icons located on the right-hand side of the page. You click on any one of them, sign up, and we'll give you a shout-out on the program, just like we're going to do right now to some individuals who signed up here about a week ago. So let's take a moment to recognize them. First of all, to Jason Morgan, who likes us on Facebook, Chad Long, John Neely, Margaret Theory, Christine in Wisconsin. They're all following us on Twitter. And finally, to Tammy Herchek, who added us to Circles on Google+. Thank you, each and every one of you. Glad to have you on board. And more importantly, thank you for being a part of this great Happy Camper Radio family. Folks, the Great American Campout 2016 is upon us. You know, I have been beefing this up every year since we started Happy Camper Radio about 3 years ago. Now, if you're not familiar with the Great American Campout, it's sponsored by the National Wildlife Federation, and it's something they do each and every year. I'm really excited about this because what ends up happening, everybody who takes the pledge to go camping just one night, that's all you have to do. Go camping one night, take the pledge, and the National Wildlife Federation sponsors, their board of directors, friends, and everybody else involved, is going to donate $1 for every individual who makes the commitment to go camping, all the way up to $100,000. And that money goes to benefit wildlife programs for resources that not only we can enjoy, but also future generations. It takes a lot of money to put these programs together, and we're so happy that there's an organization like the National Wildlife Federation to go out and do this and to make these resources available to us. I'm very excited about this. I'm at their website right now, and they're just getting underway. So as of today, they have 3,958 campers have already taken the pledge. By the end of the program today, we're going to bump that up a number because I myself am going to take the pledge, just like I know each and every one of you are going to do. I'm going to have a link to it on our website, so all you have to do is go there and click on it, or any one of our social media pages too. Go on there, make the pledge, take the commitment, do what you need to do, and go camping at least one day this summer. You have between now and June 25th to sign up in order to make your pledge count. They are looking to get at least 125,000 campers this year. They far exceeded that number last year. Well, at least 100,000 last year that I can remember. But they're looking to exceed 125,000 campers this year. I know we can do it. I know every camper out there wants to take that pledge. They want to make that commitment. They want to go benefit programs for wildlife. And this is the place to do it. You can camp out at a public campground, a private campground, in the forest. You can camp out in your very own backyard. And I may do that again this coming year. You just never know. But I am going to make the pledge. I'm going to take the commitment. I'm going to do what I can to help benefit wildlife. It's a great program. the Great American Campout, sponsored by the National Wildlife Federation. More information on that coming up in the weeks ahead. So stick around and go to our homepage, like I say, Happy Camper Radio. Check out our Facebook page. I'll have information there. Okay, folks, let's talk about quiet hours. Now, quiet hours are very important at any public or private campground. I know the whole idea of going camping is to have fun. And when we bring our young family members there, our young kids, you want to let them run around and have a great time. Just about every campground that I have been to, any public or private campground, has a playground for the kids. And you want to let them go there. You want to let them have fun. You want to let them unwind. But there comes a time of the day when everybody is going to call it quits for the night. They're going to check into their tent. They're going to go to sleep. And we expect privacy at that particular time. We expect some quiet time. We expect some time to relax. I don't know about you, but when I go camping, I enjoy quiet time. I really do. Because during the quiet hours, what helps put me to sleep is the crickets, the babbling brook, and if you ever get an opportunity to camp next to one of those, oh, my friends, what an experience that is. It makes you never want to go home. Of course, we all have to every now and then, but you want to make the camping experience as exciting and as relaxing as you possibly can. Have you ever run into a situation where you arrived at a campground after hours? I think we all have. At least most of our experienced campers have. I try to tell people all the time to get an early start. Get everything in order so you leave at a certain time and you expect to arrive at your camping destination at a certain time. In some instances, you may arrive at the campground only to find that the gates are closed. I know just about every one of the campgrounds, the public campgrounds that I have been to, at least some of the ones we promote here on the program, have information on their website about when the gates open and when the gates close. That is important. You often wonder why they close the gates. Well, think about this for a moment. Would you want all kind of vehicle traffic in and out of your campground, say at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning? Would you want anybody to just be able to drive in there, drive at any speed, honk their horn, do whatever they want to do, and they're not even campers? They're not even camping at that campground. Well, there's one of the reasons why they go ahead and lock the gates. So if you make a reservation at any campground and you see the gates are closed at 10 p.m., you'll know why. And you'll also know why it's important that you arrive before that particular hour. You want to get there, you want to get set up, and you definitely don't want to disturb fellow campers who may be calling it quits for the night. You don't want to bother those folks. Just like you wouldn't want to be bothered in the middle of the night by someone coming in and setting up camp. Of course, not all campgrounds have this rule. There are some campsites and campgrounds that do allow you to come in and set up at any hour. And if you're in one of those situations, I'm sure you have every intention of arriving early, but sometimes things happen. You're not getting an early start like you want to. Maybe there's a traffic jam. You're caught up in traffic for several hours. We've all been in those type of situations. But, the idea is you want to get set up and you want to get inside your sleeping bag and get rested up as soon as you possibly can. It's also important that if you do arrive late and you do have access to the campground, you want to make sure that the site you are choosing is one that is not already reserved. That would be a horrible experience. I know in some cases I have been to campgrounds where I've been there, and of course I get there as early as I possibly can, but when you go ahead and check in at the office, they also have a late check-in register that is usually parked outside the main office. They have a desk set up there, and you can see what's available and what's not, and you go ahead and you set up for the night, and you come up and register in the morning. I think it's important that each and every one of us try to get registered as quickly as we possibly can, and that's the convenience of the internet. You can go just about anywhere and register online, pay your camping fees right there, and have your spot already chosen and available to you when you arrive at the campground. Now, it would be an awful experience if you went ahead and made a reservation and you're arriving late at night, and you come to find out somebody is already pitching their tent right in the spot that you have reserved. Or worse yet, they're already inside their tent sleeping. I'm sure that's happened. I'm not aware of any particular situation. But, if you do happen to arrive late at any public or private campground where you do have access after hours, always make sure that you're going to choose a site that is not reserved by somebody else. Keep in mind, too, that the kids are going to be tired. Oftentimes, if you're arriving late, you've been on the road for quite a long time, maybe they're sleeping, maybe they're not. And if they're not sleeping, they may be very wound up. But you've got to let the kids know that other people in the campground are sound asleep, and you've got to be as quiet as you possibly can. Don't go in there honking the horns. Don't be blaring the radio. I think common sense will tell you that. You've got to be mindful of your neighbors who may be sound asleep next to you. Anytime that you get up there to set up in the dark, try to avoid loud talking. You always want to keep your conversations to a whisper. Remember this, folks. Tent walls these days are paper thin, and anything that you say, chances are, can be heard by a person who is lying in the sleeping bag inside of a tent right next to where you're pitching your tent. You never want to point your headlights in the direction of any tent. If you're coming down a road, there's going to be people camping to the right and left of you, and I'm just envisioning some of these campgrounds that I have been to right now in the back of my mind. But I always try to drive at or below the posted speed limit. Maybe it'll be around 15 miles per hour. But if you're approaching the campground and the campsite where you're going to be pitching your tent, and you start seeing tents there off to the right and left-hand side, you might want to turn your headlights off. And if you can, safely approach just by using your parking lights. But you want to do this safely, folks. And the reason I'm telling you this, I wouldn't want to be sleeping in a tent at 2 o'clock in the morning and have headlights blaring right in my direction. I don't want to be awakened by somebody coming in to set up camp. I know those things happen. I'm not going to hold it against the person who may be coming in late. They may be camping next to me. They may be there for 3 or 4 days. I'm definitely going to want to get to know these individuals. And I'm not going to be upset because they're coming late, because this has happened to me in the past, and I'm sure it has happened to you. Here's something else. When you're setting up your camp at night, try to keep the kids quiet, like we say, and do not let them play with flashlights. I remember my kids growing up, and we weren't even camping. I have flashlights at the home. If the kids get a hold of a flashlight, they're going to be playing around with it. And the next time you need it, the battery is going to be extremely low or dead. But when kids get out there, they're ready to go. They're ready to have fun. If they're not tired and are not crashed out in the back of the car, all right, don't let them play around at night with flashlights, because you don't want that flashlight to be aiming at around any of the tents that may be there already set up where people are inside sleeping. Also, tiki torches. I know you want as much light as possible to try to get yourself set up as quickly as you can and get everybody inside their sleeping bags and sound asleep. You may be working with a minimal amount of light available. And I know those tiki torches, I usually bring about 3 or 4 of them with me, and they throw off a tremendous amount of light. You don't want to light those because, again, it's going to shine light inside the tents of fellow campers who are camping around you. Try to avoid lighting up the lanterns, too, because the lanterns often display a lot of light. If you can get away with just a flashlight in your hand, aim to the ground and not in the direction of anybody who may be camping around you, you should be good to go. Get your tent set up, get inside your tent with your family, your sleeping bags, and call it a night. As far as setting up the rest of the camp, try to do that for later in the morning when everybody is awake. You don't need to be setting up your kitchen. You don't need to be trying to do anything necessary to get the entire camp set up. If you're coming in, say, like at 1 o'clock in the morning and you're inside the campground, you have access to the campground, you're trying to get up in there and get set up, you've got to keep in mind people around you are sound asleep. So let's try to do that as quickly and quietly as we possibly can. Get the kids inside, get them in their tent, get them zipped up, and kiss them goodnight. And we'll get started in the morning getting the rest of our camp set up. Now, if you're bringing your pet along with you, this is another issue. Just about any time I go camping, I come to find there are a number of dogs that are camping along with the campers. And I've got no problem with that at all because dogs are a part of our family. I'm a pet lover. I know you are too. And dogs can be extremely excited upon arrival. I don't know too many people who bring cats with them. If they do, chances are they're going to be inside motorhomes or fifth wheels, and you don't really see them because cats are mainly indoor-type pets. I know I've heard people walking their cat on a leash just like they do a dog. I've never seen it. I've heard about it before, but, I don't ever really recall seeing a cat wandering around a individual campsite as part of the family, is one of the family pets. But dogs can get very excited, especially if they've been on the road for a long time. They get out and they want to play. They want to get out and wander around. Many are going to be unwinding just like the kids are. It's going to be important to keep your pet as quiet as you possibly can, and I know it's going to be a challenge in many cases. Some dogs will see other dogs there at camp and want to play. Hopefully that will be during the daytime hours. I would think that just about anybody who brings their dog or their pet to camp, especially if they're camping in a tent, will have their pet inside the tent with them. Pet behavior is the owner's responsibility. If you're bringing your dog to a campground, it's going to be up to you to monitor your pet behavior and keep your pet under control. Now, this should be considered any time before deciding to bring the pet along with you. If you feel your pet is going to be out of control, if you feel your pet is not going to get along with other dogs, or is going to be barking anytime somebody comes walking along the road next to your campsite, you may want to consider boarding your pet or keeping your pet at home where somebody else can monitor them or be with them and babysit them, check in on them, and leave your pet at home. It's a decision you're going to have to make. You think about how your pet behaves on a regular basis when they're around individuals and make that decision. But you want to make a conscientious decision, and not only for the comfort of yourself, but also for your fellow campers in that area. If you do bring your pet along, remember, always clean up after your pet. Never allow them to roam free. You want to keep them on a leash at all times, take them out for a walk when necessary, and make sure your pet has its up-to-date shots and vaccinations. So very important. Is your pet microchipped? Every pet, I believe, in my opinion, should be microchipped. It's always a good idea, especially when traveling with your pets, because in the unlikelihood that your pet does get away, and I know this has happened before, and it's very heartbreaking when it does. You may be several hundred miles away from home. Your pet got away from you. It's time for you to go home. You looked everywhere. You can't find your pet. How heartbreaking would that be to have to travel home without a member of your family? If you have your pet microchipped, there's a good possibility your pet can be recovered, and if taken to a local veterinarian or a local shelter, they can scan the pet for that microchip. And so many wonderful reunions have taken place because people had taken the time to get their pet microchipped and been able to reunite with their pet somewhere down the road. If you wonder what it costs to microchip a pet, I think it's about $25 these days. At least I know that's what our veterinarian charges, and it's just a one-time fee, and your pet is registered in a national registry. It's a national database, and I think you pay an annual fee, maybe about $19. And I know I've got my Sadie registered, the one I adopted at our local shelter. She was microchipped before I adopted her, and I made sure I went online and updated the website with all my contact information, has her picture on there. Do that with your pet. It's so very important, especially if you take them on a camping trip with you or anytime you're traveling distances away from home. Just about every campground is going to have rules regarding pets at camp. Make sure you follow those rules to the letter. And if there are no rules posted, then use some common sense. That's all you really have to do. Now, relaxing by the fire after hours. Nothing wrong with this at all. A lot of my relaxation time is at night when I am sitting by the fire and folks are just starting to go to bed around me. I'm a late nighter, but that doesn't mean I'm going to have a fire blaring and keeping everybody up around me. You've got to keep in mind not everybody beds down at the same time. But at nighttime, there is going to come a time when we are going to go to sleep, and we're going to go inside of our tent, and we're going to fall asleep for the night. Everybody does this at a different hour. What you want to find out is what are the campground rules regarding fires at night. There may be no rules, but if there are no rules, keep in mind that during quiet hours, when people are sleeping, you should let your fire die down. So the flames from that fire are not going to be lighting up the tents around you. I enjoy, like I say, sitting by the fire and maybe enjoying a cup of hot cocoa or hot cider and just relaxing and kicking back in my recliner and just trying to get my head together and thinking, just putting all my problems aside. It's a great place to do it. Right there camping, right by the fire at a public or private campground where the people camping around you are having the same thoughts and experiences you are. It's a common community. It's a common place to go camping. And, it's a great time to just let your problems roll off your shoulder. A log or two here and there on the fire at night shouldn't be a problem at all. But, at nighttime, you want to also turn down the intensity of your lanterns. I usually bring 2 lanterns with me, and I'll have them both on. And if they're not sitting or they're not attached to the lantern posts, which you can find just about at every campsite, I may have one on the picnic table. I may have one somewhere close by. But, I have enough light to pretty much light my campsite up. At nighttime, though, after quiet hours, when people start bedding down, you want to turn down the intensity of those lights if you're using a gas-powered lantern. I have the old Coleman lanterns that require the use of Coleman fuel. I know today they're making the dual fuel lanterns where you can either use unleaded gasoline or the Coleman fuel itself. But my Coleman fuel lanterns, I've had them for over 20 years, and they're doing just great. I make sure I have everything I need. I have plenty of fuel with me. I have, there's some spare mantles in case I need them, a spare generator in case one of them go out. But I always have my lanterns in use each and every night. But during the quiet hours, you've got to tone those things down. If you've got family and friends around your campsite, try to finish up your camp songs and your guitar playing before quiet hours. Remember, folks are bedding down around you, and you don't want to disturb their sleep. Try to keep all your conversations during quiet hours to a whisper, and never, never discuss private details around the campfire. Some discussions should be left at home. Remember, the people who are sleeping in the tents next to you have paper-thin walls, and they can hear each and every bit of conversation that you're discussing there at camp. So, if you have some things that you wouldn't discuss in public, you definitely don't want to be discussing them around the campfire at nighttime. Never allow horse playing around the campfire. Educate your young children about the dangers of fire, and you want to keep them away from the fire ring or the fire pit. Never allow them to place a large stick inside the fire and heat up the end of that stick with a red glow to it. Because what's going to happen, they're going to take that stick out and they're going to whirl it around in the air, just, have that crazy design. We all did that when we were kids. But, accidents can happen. And you never, ever want to allow your children to play with fire. Educate them, teach them the dangers of fire, and teach them the importance of being able to sit there and just relax and enjoy. Now let's talk about cooking hot dogs and marshmallows over an open flame. Wow. Yes, I love doing that. But if you're going to do that, and you're going to allow your children to have hot dogs and marshmallows cooked over the open flame, and you're going to allow them to hold that stick, you want to make sure you supervise all cooking over an open flame. Always use the proper tools for this purpose. Don't just pick up a stick off the ground and put a hot dog on the end of it and say, here you go. Yeah, it's not very sanitary. They do make these proper tools, and you can get them in just about any camp store. And if you're cooking over the open flame and you want to put a hot dog on the end or maybe some marshmallows, have some s'mores, hey, you're all good to go. But make sure you supervise your children. Always extinguish the campfire, too, before going to bed. Douse the fire with water. If you carry a shovel with you, turn that over a couple different times, add some more water to it. You want to make sure that your fire is completely out before you bed down. One other thing I'd like to talk to you about, too, late night runs to the restroom or the bathhouse. Everybody has to go. In some cases, people get up 2 or 3 times a night. But when you're going to do that, you've got to be as quiet as possible. You may be passing several tents and several campsites on the way to the restroom or the bathhouse. If you're bringing your flashlight along with you, keep that flashlight aimed toward the ground. Try to avoid using it if at all possible. Now, here's something else you want to also keep in mind as well, is if you get up in the middle of the night and you're inside of a tent, if you use your flashlight to get up to help you get dressed and find things, your neighbors who may be sitting outside the tent are going to be able to see a shadow of your every single movement inside that tent. So if you can dress up in the dark, that's a better thing to do than have your flashlight inside. Some people carry flashlights. Some people have these little battery-operated lamps on a stand inside their tent. I have one of those myself. But if you're camping in a public environment, try to avoid having that lantern on because, like I say, everybody can see the shadow of every single movement inside your tent. Also, avoid talking while en route to the bathhouse. If you've got someone walking with you and you're talking, try to keep your conversations to a whisper. You don't want to wake up fellow campers on the right or left-hand side of the road. If you're one of these type of individuals who takes a midnight stroll, some people like to do that after dark. Keep the flashlight use to a minimum, like we say. Aim the flashlight to the ground, not at the campsites, not at the tents. And walk alongside the road and avoid entering other sites if at all possible. Wear reflective clothing, too. Not that I expect you're going to have any vehicle traffic in the campground maybe at 4 o'clock in the morning while you're en route to the bathhouse or the restroom. But if you have a car approaching you from behind, you want to be seen. And always, like I say, walk to the right or the left-hand side of the road, where the driver can see you. I think anybody who goes camping, they're good people all the way around. I don't think anybody is going to be driving in excess of the speed limits anytime they go camping. Camping is fun. Camping is recreational. It's something we all enjoy doing. I think campers are some of the best people that God ever put on the face of the earth. So there's some things you need to consider. Quiet hours, that's what we're talking about here on the Happy Camper Radio Show. I think it's an important topic, and I think there's a lot of information that I shared with you today that I think you can use the next time you go camping. It's time now for our featured campground of the week here on the Happy Camper Radio Show. Yep. Our friend George in Arizona got in touch with the show here about a week and a half ago, and he turned us on to a great campsite out there called Pump House Wash. It's a wonderful campground. I'm going to have information on our homepage all week long. All you have to do is go to www.happycamperradio.com and click on the featured campground tab on the right-hand side of the page. Pump House Wash is a popular dispersed camping area in the Ponderosa Pine Forest, midway between Flagstaff and Sedona, Arizona. It is a wonderful, wonderful destination if you like privacy, if you like just getting out there in the wilderness. Pump House Wash is a campground that you should consider. It's a popular alternative to traditional campgrounds for visitors to Oak Creek Canyon and the Flagstaff area. Now, there's 4 campground loops, each site containing between 11 and 26 signed and numbered sites. The site offers excellent camping opportunities for large groups as well as families and individuals. Most sites have partial to full shade beneath towering ponderosa pine and are generally flat, making it easy to set up tents and campers. Each site has parking and campfire rings. There's no trash service, so if you got to pack it in, you got to pack it out. Make sure you bring plenty of trash bags with you. Also, I want you to keep in mind, too, that there are no restroom facilities. Portable toilets are highly recommended. So, if you're going to be doing some wilderness camping, this is one of those campgrounds where you don't have any toilet facilities. You can pick up those portable toilets at any campground store, and they don't cost a whole lot of money. A lot of information there on their website, and again, it's going to be on the Happy Camper radio site all week long. Great place to go camping. If you want to go out to the state of Arizona, consider Pump House Wash. It's our featured campground of the week here on the Happy Camper Radio Show. And, of course, if you have a campground that you would like for us to feature on the program, by all means, get in touch with me, Skip, S-K-I-P, at happycamperradio.com. Make sure you include a link to the campground website. What a wonderful day it is, and what a wonderful camping experience you're just about to have. All you got to do is just go out there and do it. Weather's nice. Weather is wonderful. Just take the time, take your family, and go have some fun. Remember, folks, every pet deserves a loving home. I want you to do exactly like I did. Visit your local shelter and adopt a pet today. You can find us online anytime, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at www.happycamperradio.com. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter at Camp Talker, add us to Circles on Google+, and now subscribe to our YouTube channel. The Happy Camper Radio Show is a presentation of Skip Huber Productions. I'm Skip. I am a happy camper. You can tell that for sure. And no doubt about it, my friends, I'm going to do my best to make a happy camper out of you. Have a great one. We'll talk to you again soon. This is Happy Camper Radio.